the point in our agenda where it's a citizens report. Anyone who wishes to speak to an item not on the agenda may address the council at this time. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to address the city council? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Metters. I'm a resident and homeowner of Loveland. Recently, I talked to the city council about fluoride issues, and I wanted to give a little bit more information by way of a letter from 5 legislators out of Tennessee to the Department of Health. This letter starts out, "Dear Commissioner Cooper," who is the Commissioner of the Department of Health in Nashville, Tennessee. "As a bipartisan group of Tennessee legislators, we are writing to express our concern about disturbing news about the harmful effects of drinking fluoridated water. This news affects every citizen in Tennessee and also affects hundreds of water utilities in our state that are voluntarily fluoridating their water. We are asking that you issue a directive halting the Tennessee State Health Department from promoting or endorsing the practice of water fluoridation on the Health Department's webpage or through the action of your department's employees. There is much news today about fluorides in the media. The National Research Council of the National Academy of Sciences has acknowledged that certain groups such as kidney patients, diabetics, babies, seniors are susceptible subpopulations that are particularly vulnerable to harms from fluoride. The U.S. Health and Human Services Department has recently recommended lowering fluoride levels in water. But obviously, we still cannot control how much fluoridated water people in our state ingest. And of course, this is a concern for people who are in these susceptible groups and also a concern for others. The Gerber Baby Product Corporation is now selling an unfluoridated water so that parents of young babies won't use fluoridated water for mixing baby formula. Many Tennessee families are unaware of this, and many do not have funds to purchase unfluoridated water. Fluoride can cause a lifelong disfiguring condition of the teeth called dental fluorosis, and even persons with very mild or mild dental fluorosis can find it objectionable. Many people do not have funds to repair dental fluorosis stains on their or their children's teeth. Because there is so much news coming out that contradicts or causes us to question earlier assurance that fluoridation and fluorides are safe, and in a climate of tight state water utility budgets, we believe it is wise to suspend promotion of fluoridation by our state employees. This will save money, will help encourage water districts to consider all the developments, and will demonstrate our concern for babies especially. If people want fluoride, they can still use fluoridated toothpaste and spit it out. Groups here in Tennessee and elsewhere are calling for fluoride gate hearings. Those of us who are 60 and above, like myself, will remember the Watergate Hotel and the reference there. There is a real reason to be concerned that the whole story about fluorides was not previously shared with us. The legal community is now looking at pursuing cases related to harm from fluorides. This may have implications for our state's water utilities. Therefore, we ask that you direct your department to cease all actions that promote fluoridation until appropriate federal hearings or investigations are held and conclusive research conducted that demonstrates that kidney patients, babies, diabetics, and others are not harmed by uncontrolled ingestion of fluoride over a lifetime through fluoridation. It is signed by 5 legislators out of Tennessee, and the date of this letter is February 2011, so it's very timely. And next, I'd just like to read some brief notes from Ambassador Andrew Young. Many would remember him as a civil rights leader back in the 60s. He wrote Chip Rogers, state majority leader, a letter. The subject of it, withdrawal of law requiring water fluoridation in Georgia. It's a short letter. Dear Senator and Representatives, I am writing to convey my interest in seeing that Georgia's laws mandating water fluoridation for Georgia communities be repealed. My father was a dentist. I formerly was a strong believer in the benefits of water fluoridation for preventing cavities, but many things that we began to do 50 or more years ago, we now no longer do because we have learned further information that's changed our practices and policies. So it is with fluoridation. We originally thought people needed to swallow it, so the fluoride would be incorporated in the teeth before they erupted from the gums. Our belief in the need for systemic absorption was why we began adding fluoride to drinking water. But now we know that the primary limited cavity fighting effects of fluoride are topical. When fluoride touches teeth in the mouth, we know that fluorides do little to stop cavities where they occur most, in the pits and fissures of the back molars where food packs down into the grooves. This is why there is a big push today to use teeth sealants in the molars of children. We also have a cavity epidemic today in our inner cities that have been fluoridated for decades. So now we know that fluoride's impacts are primarily topical and are very limited where needed most in the teeth. And on top of this, we are learning that fluorides do not simply affect teeth, but can also harm other tissues and systems in the body. So we must weigh the risk of kidney patients, to diabetics, and to babies against a small amount of cavity preventions by swallowing fluorides. The National Research Council has acknowledged that kidney patients, diabetics, seniors, and infants are susceptible groups that are especially vulnerable to harm from fluorides. There are millions of these persons who have their health conditions or would meet the criteria for concern. The National Center of Health Statistics says that 41% of 12 to 15-year-old adolescents now have the teeth staining called dental fluorosis that shows overexposure to fluorides as a child, and that 3.6% have the very visible, moderate, severe form of the condition. This translates into millions of persons with disfiguring impacts from fluorides. How many of these people can afford the tens of thousands of dollars to have veneers or other cosmetic dental work performed? There is growing bipartisan support across the country for halting water fluoridation. And 11 unions of the EPA workers, representing 7,000 EPA lab workers, scientists, and others, have called for a halt to fluoridation. The recent suggested lowering of fluoride levels in the water does not address the fact that we still cannot control the amount of fluorides that sensitive individuals ingest. People are calling for investigative fluoride gate hearings, and one can understand why, given the fact that the story about fluorides keeps changing. I am most deeply concerned for poor families who have babies. If they cannot afford unfluoridated water for their babies, milk formula, do their babies not count? Of course they do. This is an issue.
Yes. Interrupt you. We've gone way long past your 3 minutes, and
well, thank you for entertaining.
If you would leave those copies of those letters with our city clerk here, we'll be glad to read them all the way through.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to the